How do you maintain a friendship with Bill Maher? Because you're very different on politics, I think.
Yeah, 30 years ago when he had his show Politically Incorrect, it was the first TV show I'd really ever done early in my career. And it's not like we stayed best friends through that, but he's had me on his podcast and on his TV show, and I'm like, man, this is good to go. It's easy for me to go on Fox News. Everyone's so friendly and so nice. We kind of align. I kind of like going into the lion's den a little bit and talking to people who differ than me and seeing, where we can connect on things and just try to be a little more civil. I've been one of the most polarizing figures out there. I know that, but I'm like, hey, maybe we can just try to be a little nicer to
Here's a story you don't hear every day. Kid Rock and Bill Maher are actually friends. It's unexpected, isn't it? Bill Maher, the sharp-tongued liberal comedian, and Kid Rock, the unapologetic, flag-waving rock star who openly supports Trump, seem like they'd be worlds apart. Yet their friendship has stood the test of time. How? Kid Rock isn't one to avoid those who think differently from him. In fact, he thrives on it, saying it sparks better conversations and adds some spice to life. Honestly, he might be onto something. In a time when people often stick to their own corners, this duo shows us that genuine dialogue can still exist. So what does this surprising connection reveal about where America stands in terms of political discussion? Let's explore.
President Trump was joined at the White House by Kid Rock when Trump signed an executive order targeting ticket scalpers. And now look who's here on this, the man, Kid Rock himself. So we're going to get into ticket prices in a second. But first, I want to hear about your dinner with the president. What did you, Bill Maher, and Dana White and the president talk about?
It went so well. We talked about a lot of things, which Bill Maher is a big, supporter of Trump's stance on the border, of ending wokeism. The president even asked him about policy, like what he thought with Iran getting a nuclear weapon and how Israel should react. Bill's a big supporter of Israel. We broke bread and talked about things we had in common, and it could not have been more cordial, more nice. I think everyone was so pleasantly surprised. I mean, it was so nice to have my friend Dana White there, and Dana goes, he told me, he goes, Bob, you did the right thing here. This was a good thing. About even the president had called me a few days ago. He goes, what the hell you got me doing here? And I'm like, we're just trying to break bread with some of our biggest critics and say, like, hey, it's okay to talk to one another. We can maybe bring a little bit of civility back to this country for reasons.
Let's be honest. When you hear that Kid Rock, Donald Trump, and Bill Maher had dinner together, your first thought is probably something like, wait, what? Or how did that not end in disaster? But according to Kid Rock, not only was the dinner civil, it was actually enjoyable. It sounds more like the premise of a comedy sketch than reality, but what unfolded was a rare instance of civility in modern American discourse. Think about it. These guys are political opposites. Bill Maher is a staunch liberal commentator, while Kid Rock is the unapologetic rock-rap rebel flying the MAGA flag, and of course, Trump is Trump. Yet they managed to find common ground on topics like border security, resisting woke culture, and unwavering support for Israel. What really stood out, though, was Kid Rock's take on the evening. He explained that the dinner's purpose wasn't to debate or change anyone's mind. It was simply to show that it's okay to have a conversation with someone you disagree with. In today's world, where friendships end over Facebook arguments and people are canceled over old tweets, that's a powerful message. Even Trump, according to Kid Rock, was skeptical at first, but by the end of the night, everyone walked away surprised at how positive the experience had been. Kid Rock described it as one of the most meaningful days of his life, not because of the high-profile company, but because of what it represented, a rare symbol of unity in a deeply divided time. So, what does this tell us? Maybe we're not as hopelessly divided as social media makes it seem. Perhaps the first step toward bridging these divides isn't arguing or trying to win, but simply sitting down to talk. And if Kid Rock, Bill Maher, and Donald Trump can do it, maybe there's hope for the rest of us after all.
Make of Trump's tariffs on autos and auto parts coming into the country.
I think it's great. I think we should be making more of these cars in Detroit. I know they make the Ford Raptor there and things, but I know there's other cars that are, we design them in Detroit. It's some of the big three, and then the engines, and they're assembled in Canada or Mexico. And I think it's great for our auto workers, for everybody, for Why wouldn't we want? And now the president's talking about giving people a tax break if they buy a car that's actually built in America. This is all great news for Detroit, in my opinion.
Did that come up for discussion last night?
No, we talked about that in the Oval Office a little bit, but no, dinner was awesome. It was weirdly so awesome that just to see. I mean, the president and Bill could not have been more engaged and just had such a nice conversation. And then one point I will make is Bill, has obviously been a big supporter of so many, of the left, supporting, Clinton and Kamala and Barack and everyone. And he had never been to the White House. And the president took us up to the private residence and we were showing Bill the Gettysburg Address in the Lincoln bedroom. And I was like, "You've never been here?" And Bill was like, "No." And I was like, "Can you believe you're here with President Trump showing you around?" And he was like, everybody just knew it was a special, hopefully it's a special moment. It sets an example. I never anticipated on trying to set a positive example in this country for something like this.
Yes, you heard that right. The guy who once rapped about being a cowboy is now weighing in on economic policy. And surprisingly, he's making some compelling arguments. Kid Rock has thrown his support behind Trump's tariff policies, particularly those targeting autos and car parts. It makes sense when you think about it. He's a Detroit native, born and raised in the heart of American manufacturing. For him, this isn't just about politics, it's personal. Kid Rock is essentially saying, if we're designing cars here, assembling them in Mexico, and then importing the parts back, what's the point? He's calling for those jobs and that production to stay in the US, and he's far from alone. This message resonates deeply in places like Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, the Rust Belt battlegrounds. What really caught my attention, though, is how he's taking it a step further. He's advocating for tax breaks for consumers who purchase cars truly made in America, not just branded American, but genuinely manufactured here. That's a smart move, aligning consumer incentives with the value of supporting domestic labor. It's not just populist rhetoric, it's a tangible policy idea. Of course, whether tariffs work in the long term is an entirely different conversation. But from Kid Rock's perspective, this isn't about abstract economics. It's about loyalty. He's standing up for the workers who build things with their hands, and that's not just a political stance. It's a cultural one.
Let's get to one last one. Ticket scalping. Well, listen to what Mr. Trump had to
Yes.
say about the executive order on it. Roll tape, please.
It bothers a lot of other artists too. You see, the artists, and they go out with a $100 ticket and it sells for $2,000 the following night. Ticket sales and scalping and all of the gouging that you have been reading about, it's gotten worse and worse with time. And I didn't know too much about it, but I checked it out, and it is a big problem. And I thought, I think you've been trying to get this done for 20 years or something. He said Trump got it done in 2 weeks. But we came up with a very serious EO.
I just wonder how you fix this when you've got enormous demand for a very limited supply of tickets. How do you decide who gets the tickets?
Well, it should be when you go into the queue to get tickets. Not everybody to a hugely popular show is going to get tickets, but as an artist, we want to get, the majority of us want to get the prices we set into the hands of the fans at those prices. I've been the first one to say, the president hates it when I say, like, "Sir, I'm a little overpaid. I would rather be more of a hero to working class people so they can go to more shows." And this is the first step to really, try to get the bots and the bad actors, the scalpers out of the way. Ultimately, and I'm a capitalist and a deregulation guy, but ultimately what I would like to see is get some legislation passed that puts a cap on the resale of concert tickets, like a 10% cap. And that eliminates all the BS and the bad actors right off the bat.
All right, let's dive into a topic that's made every concert goer furious at some point: ticket scalping. You know the story, tickets drop, you rush to buy them, sit through the queue, maybe even click purchase, and bam, they're sold out. A couple of minutes later, those same tickets show up on resale sites for 10 times the original price. It's infuriating. Kid Rock, he's had enough of it. Here's the twist. Kid Rock, the self-proclaimed free market capitalist guy, is actually calling for regulation, specifically a cap on ticket resale markups. That's right, the flag-waving champion of free enterprise is saying, hey, maybe we need a rule here. His idea? A 10% limit on resale markups. So if you buy a ticket for $100, you can't resell it for $500 just because you've got a bot and zero scruples. And honestly, that's not anti-capitalist. It's just common sense. The current system rewards digital scalpers for doing nothing but hiking prices and shutting out real fans. Kid Rock isn't just theorizing about this, he's putting it into action because he wants his working-class fans, the ones who built his career, to actually afford to come to his shows. In a world where $400 nosebleed seats are justified by so-called dynamic pricing, Kid Rock's stance feels like a breath of fresh air. He's saying, "I'd rather be the hero to the people who supported me from day one than rake in cash at their expense." So here's the takeaway. Kid Rock isn't waging war on the free market. Instead, he's standing up for the fans and calling out a system that's clearly flawed. In his eyes, ticket scalping isn't just an inconvenience, it's a betrayal of the people who helped him build his career. By proposing a cap on resale markups, he's addressing an issue that has priced countless working-class fans out of live music, making concerts feel more like luxury events than accessible experiences. What's remarkable is how this stance reflects Kid Rock's commitment to his roots. He's not trying to dismantle capitalism, he's trying to fix a broken piece of it. The current system rewards scalpers and bots who contribute nothing to the concert experience except skyrocketing ticket prices. Meanwhile, genuine fans, the ones who line up early, blast his music on road trips, and wear his merch, are left empty-handed or forced to pay exorbitant prices. By stepping in with this proposal, Kid Rock is doing something rare in the entertainment industry. He's saying, "I don't need to squeeze every last dollar out of my fans. I want them there, enjoying the music and the community we've built together." In an era when nosebleed seats often cost as much as a week's rent thanks to dynamic pricing, this kind of approach feels like a revolutionary act. In a way, this might just be the most punk rock move of Kid Rock's career, not because it's loud or rebellious, but because it's rooted in genuine care for his fans. It's a stand against greed and a reminder that sometimes the boldest act is simply doing what's right for the people who matter most.